And this is the thing, at these bigger schools, a school like Sierra Canyon, right? We've seen players who have averaged in high school 35, 12, and 15, just absolutely gaudy numbers. You know what I mean? But these guys in these prep schools aren't going to average as high because they're essentially playing in a college system. And that's why if you look at college players, their numbers are not crazy because they're in a system. So I think that gives Bronny a little bit of breathing room in terms of his stats. But number 34 in his class right now is not going to cut it if he wants to be in the league in 2.5 years.
Could the GOAT, the king, play with the prince at the same time? Yes, we're talking about the odds, the chances. Is it even realistic that LeBron and Bronny Jr. could share a court at the same time? For us, this would be crazy. This would be unseen, never before done in the NBA. How rare is this?
Tyler, I'm glad that you asked, man. This right here is rare, man. This is rare, like a Saturday afternoon Game Boy running. You find a Lugia. You know what I'm saying? This is rare, like a motherfucking steak. You know what I'm saying? That's how rare it is.
That would be. That's true. Okay, we know the chosen one. LeBron has already defied the odds. You know what I'm saying? But this, if he was to play with his son, same team, same city, same jersey, that would be defying the odds to a whole nother level, man. This would be Bronny James doing the same, defying the odds as well, because we know how hard it is to become a player on a 30-team roster in the NBA Association.
Yeah, man, I'm with you, man. And the funny thing is, right, I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's the how media is all in your face these days as opposed to what it was 30, 40 years ago. But this man, LeBron, knows how to tell a story. You know what I mean? This guy, LeBron, knows what to say and when to say it. You know what I mean? Like, he's done it all. You know what I mean? Drafted number 1 overall out of high school, 18 years old. That in itself is enough to get you a story. You know what I mean? That's a storybook career. Now you lived up to the odds. You defied all of the odds. You lived up to all the expectations. You know what I'm saying? You won rings through all the hate, through all the doubt. You created super teams through all the hate and through all the doubt. You know what I'm saying? Went to the Lakers at an old age like my boy Kareem. And now we might see the first father-son duo in the history of the NBA.
And man, you're talking about the movie. It's going to be phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? He might be the second greatest of all time, but that Last Dance is going to be better than Michael's. I'm going to tell you that right now. What a picture book ending it could be to retire with your son on the same roster. Like, the Last Dance getting shut down. Last Dance is getting shut down if that's what happens.
Hey, man, listen, and we all know Jordan is the GOAT. The list just came out by ESPN. Everybody knows it, but with all that being said, this man LeBron is the GOAT off the court, the GOAT at storytelling, the GOAT at storylines, because he talks about it at the biggest night of the season, potentially, minus the NBA Finals, right? Even bigger given that it's the anniversary. Team is there, Hall of Famers galore. You know what I mean? So many photo ops. With all that being said, the eyes were on LeBron. He stole the show with the news. And man, this could be the craziest thing we've seen, period. You know what I mean?
LeBron, through that road, 20 years in this association, he knows the ins and outs, right? He knows how to prepare to be great. He knows how to be great on and off the court. And all that's getting passed down to his eldest, his namesake, Bronny James Jr. Bronny is equipped, man. He's got the resources, the access, everything he needs to be an NBA player. But that doesn't mean this is going to be an easy road.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like you mentioned, LeBron is in that Tom Brady conversation when it comes to how much money they spend on their body, recovery, meal planning, all of that stuff, man. Basketball IQ that Bronny's going to be able to get from his dad. You know what I mean? So from that end, like you said, he has every single tool to do this thing. But at the same time, it's not a guarantee. Yeah. You know what I mean? 30 teams in the league times 15. You know what I'm saying? You do the math. You know what I'm saying? And the bottom 3-4 guys on that roster ain't even playing. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, it ain't an easy road. You mentioned it, but I think Bronny has got the tools to do it. You know, let's go into Bronny as a player. You know what I'm saying? Class of 2023, number 34 ranked prospect. You know what I mean? Bronny's got some growth to do. He's a sophomore now, junior now. So junior now, so he's got some growth to do. Sierra Canyon has a good team, you know, but to be able to carry that namesake, right? He's got some growth. He needs to hit.
Yeah, man, and you mentioned it. Number 34 in the 2023 class. Bronny standing at 6'3", 190. Okay, 17 years old. Not draft eligible until 2024 unless the NBA changes its rules. But look, let's talk about it, all right? I'm going to talk about the strengths. Let's start positive, okay? Bronny, biggest strengths right now, catch and shoot game, man. They've had a couple games on NBA hardwood arenas, and he's pulling from the three-point line, NBA three-point line, and it's looking effortless. Dare I say effortless, okay? No, I'm not going to say that. I take that back.
Let's not get carried away. But
that, the passing ability, and the performance under pressure, man. It's those big stage games. It's the rivalries against St. Mary's, St. Vincent St. Mary's, LeBron's old school. It's the ESPN games where he's playing his best basketball. And that's something that I think is not a coincidence, right? This is a guy that's been a prodigy since 14 years old. His middle school games were going viral. He was shutting down gyms in AAU. So when he goes to the league, if he gets to the league, I don't think it's going to be a problem, man. This is a guy that dealt with pressure since the life. I mean, James is on the back of his jersey. Pressure's going to be there.
Oh, yeah. And I'm with you, man. And honestly, I think a worst-case scenario for Bronny, he does end up in the league. Maybe goes bottom half of the second round. You know what I mean? I'm talking worst-case possible scenario. I don't see that he doesn't end up in the league. He might have to end up fighting for a roster spot. That's if things go to hell. Now, with that being said, best-case scenario, I think Bronny's not done growing. He's 17 years old, but we know his dad is 6'8". You know, he could grow a couple more inches, and even at not, he's very athletic at that 6'3". We know that's a little bit small for the position he'd be wanting to play in the league, but his vision and his shooting that we've seen so far definitely can make up for some of those size disadvantages. Now you equip and add in his athleticism on the defensive end and the basketball IQ that comes with the name of James. You know what I'm saying? This guy could be scary. You know what I mean? But with all of that being said, though, you know, it's not going to be an easy road for Bronny. He has not been the most consistent. He's not even the number one guy on his squad right now at 17 years old, where LeBron was the number one guy as a sophomore. You know, there's go ahead.
It's two different paths, man. LeBron was 16, a year younger than Bronny, going to ABC camps, one of the biggest national camps, and dominating against seniors, juniors. He was 17, dominating against NBA players, playing pickup with Michael and some of the greats at that time. It's two different paths, but let's remember, he doesn't need to be LeBron for them to play a year together.
Facts. I'm with you 100%. So I'm just throwing all those things into consideration, you know what I mean? And with all of that being said, the hard work is not on LeBron, like you mentioned earlier. The hard work's on Bronny. LeBron just with, you know, the movement of maybe a phone call or two to Rich Paul, he'll be wherever he wants by the next week. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's all on Bronny. He does, like you mentioned, you know what I'm saying? His middle school games were going viral. High basketball IQ from a young age. Shows these flashes. Big game player, you know what I mean? He showed up against his dad's old high school in Staples Center, you know? But the consistency is what he needs to work on, you know what I mean? To be able to be in the same category as the Amari Baileys, and before we could even start talking about the league, you know?
And it's funny, it's so much of his game resembles his dad, right? I like it a lot. He's got that natural feel. He definitely sees the game a step ahead. But it's almost like LeBron's greatest weakness. What does he get criticized for? Other than the free throw shooting, which the 3-point shooting he's cleared up. Free throws still a little hazy at times. But LeBron gets criticized for being passive at the wrong times. And that's just probably the biggest weakness in Bronny's game right now. He can get passive for big stretches. He can become invisible on the court. That presence on a high school floor should be apparent to everyone in the gym. They should not be struggling to find LeBron's son on a basketball court. You should be standing out like a shining star. So I don't know. It's a gift and a curse playing the way that LeBron plays. When you're 6'9", freight train running to the basket, the points are going to come. But when you're a 6'3" guard, it's a little tougher to get by.
No, I'm with you on that 100%. And this is the thing that I don't see in Bronny that I saw in a younger LeBron. So this is the thing. LeBron would sometimes get passive in big moments earlier on in his career. Not even earlier on. It's just when the pressure got into him. I'm talking about a couple years before Miami days is really when the conversation. Yeah, because when he was younger on the Cavs, he was hitting game winners and he beat the Pistons to make it all the way to the freaking NBA Finals to get swept by the Spurs. With all of that being said, though, my point to say all that is to say this guy Bronny does not have the killer instinct that a young LeBron had. And we know he has it, but in flashes. Whereas LeBron was on go all day, every day. In high school, he knew he was the man. You know what I mean? Whereas Bronny's still trying to find where he fits into everything, as opposed to just taking it.
Yeah, and I think it might be partially situation. You know what I'm saying? When you're playing for a local Cleveland, Ohio team, and there aren't any other 5-stars on your roster, you have to be that guy or you're losing. When you're on the Cleveland Cavaliers, you can't kick it to Anderson Varejao. You're going to lose. So it's just different for Bronny, right? And I think that killer dog, like he said, we see it for flashes, but it's not required every game. It's not required every night when you got a Mary on one wing and you got Zaire Williams on the other, Scottie Pippen's son last year. You know what I'm saying? You got roster, you got talent. So it's just not and you wonder, right, like for development, is that a better situation, right? Like if he was to go to a smaller known school and just dominate, take every shot, would he come out a better basketball player? Or is he still going to become the same player? Is that final result going to be the same?
No, those are important questions to ask. And this is the thing. At these bigger schools, a school like Sierra Canyon, right? We've seen players who have averaged in high school 35, 12, and 15, just absolutely gaudy numbers. You know what I mean? But these guys in these prep schools aren't going to average as high because they're essentially playing in a college system. And that's why if you look at college players, their numbers are not crazy because they're in a system. So I think that gives Bronny a little bit of breathing room in terms of his stats. But number 34 in his class right now is not going to cut it if he wants to be in the league in 2.5 years.
And, man, you touched on it, number 34. So let's talk a little about the history, right? There is a track record. So when we look back at the last 5 years of draft picks, especially the first rounders, let's stick to the first rounders. There have been 71 one-and-done players taken in the first round in the last 5 years. Of those 71 players, 67 of those guys were 5-star prospects. That only leaves 4 non-5-star prospects that have been drafted in the first round after 1 year of college, G League, overseas, whatever it may be. So when you look at that, right, you try to project, okay, Bronny is a 4-star right now. Yes, he's only a junior. He has time. He could grow in height. He could grow in stature. He could grow in skill, right? Things can change. But if it doesn't stay the same, he's shooting crabs in the barrel right now, man. As a 6'3" guard, 195 pounds, and only a 4-star, the odds are stacked against him, at least be a first-round pick in the 2024 draft when he becomes eligible.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough position, and we're talking about history. You know, when projecting potential, size does matter. You know what I mean? So the closest comp that we could think of in recent years is Tyler Hero, who is a little bit taller, about 2 inches taller, 5 pounds heavier, drafted in the first round, was a 4-star recruit just like Bronny when he left high school. Only difference is, like you mentioned, Bronny has some time for growth, was 37th in his class. You know, so he made it over the hump, but then again, 2 inches taller, can shoot lights out of the building, you know. Bronny can shoot, and I honestly will give it to him. He's a better shooter than his father was at that age. And honestly, I think just a better overall shooter than his dad is. But with that being said, Tyler Herro's an elite shooter. So if Bronny doesn't pick it up, whether it's in shooting, whether even increasing his playmaking, his aggressiveness, or in everything, it'll be tough. You know what I mean? So especially being undersized.
And it's funny, like the Tyler Hero comp, like now that I'm thinking about it more, okay, the skill sets are kind of similar, right? There are their differences, but both great shooters. I'd probably give the slight edge to Tyler Hero. But with athleticism and defense, Bronny is way above where Tyler Hero was at this point. But I think what made the difference, what elevated Tyler to a first-round pick, was going to Kentucky. It was the right system, it was the right coach, and he came out a better player. So it's going to be really interesting. I think a big factor that no one's really discussing is where does he go to school if he decides to, and where is he playing in the G League? I don't know if you have any guesses on this. What do you think? Because obviously LeBron's going to be in his ear. I think he'll let Bronny make the final decision, but it ain't going to come without no influence.
Oh yeah. But if I had to get crazy here, I'm saying Bronny's going to the Santa Cruz Warriors. You know what I mean? I know that sounds crazy. He gets far away from home like he would be if he was going to college. Still close enough where they could link up all the time. You got one of the best systems in the G League. These guys, the Santa Cruz Warriors, are known to bring guys to be NBA level ready or NBA ready. You know what I'm saying? So they just had Gary Payton and all. Their whole squad is G Leaguers. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, he goes to Santa Cruz. He learns some of the Steph magic. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. And then when they do link up, you know what I mean? Shoot. Bronny, and Steph? Come on, dog.
Well, that would be interesting. I'm not going to lie. That would be real fun to watch. Wherever they go, if they're playing together, you know it's going to be ESPN every night. But that would be crazy. That would really be crazy.
Yeah, man.
But speaking of history, right? There's another comp. If we're thinking about not just Bronny, but what LeBron and Bronny James Jr. will be doing in terms of making history together, playing and sharing the same court, brings up another father-son duo. Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. All right, I'm sure everyone's heard about this, but look, this was unprecedented. Only time it's happened where a father and son were actually playing. It's happened with the coach and the son. We've seen Doc and Austin Rivers and a couple other examples. But that's the only of the main four sports where this has happened. Only time. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and we're on the edge of potentially seeing this here, you know, which is mind-blowing. We've never seen it before in basketball. We've only ever been lucky to see it enough in baseball.
Yeah, man. And that one, that was beautiful to see. Think about the moments. You got Ken Griffey Jr. robbing a pop-up in front of his dad. Like, there's some iconic moments. It was ticker tape, you know what I'm saying? It was flash. But the big difference there is the son was the one that ended up as one of the greatest of all times, not the father. So it wasn't like this huge bar was already set and the son had to just jump up trying to hope to grab it or touch it. It's a lot more pressure this way around for Bronny.
I'm with you. And honestly, you took me to my next point, like you mentioned, right? Ken Griffey Jr. was so exceptional, right? And Griffey Sr. was good enough to stick around till he was 41. We know baseball, you're able to play a little bit longer than basketball, but still, to have that longevity in a sport and for your son to be that good, a lot of people don't realize to be 21 years old or 20, or however old he was when he came 20 years
20.
old.
Yep.
20 years old, most people don't actually make it to the majors until 22, 23, 24, sometimes 27 and 28. Look at Aaron Judge. When did he get in? When he was 26, 25?
Yeah.
You know? And we're talking about him like he's one of the best hitters of all time. So all of that has got to be put into perspective. This has to be a perfect storm for this thing to go down. But with all that being said, LeBron James makes it easier. You know what I mean? He encourages these conditions for a perfect storm. You know what I mean? We almost know wherever Bronny goes, if he ends up making it there, LeBron can get a one-way ticket there the next day. You know, so that part is taken care of. It's just now, like we were talking about earlier, Bronny, can you live up to the legacy?
Yeah. And like you said, I agree with you. LeBron isn't slowing down. He's pimp slapping father time every chance he gets. So it's funny, the comp with Ken Griffey Jr., you said it, senior was 41 and junior was 20. If the earliest Bronny could make the debut is the 24-25 season, at that point LeBron will be close to his 40th birthday and Bronny will be 19-20. So it's just, whoa. We can see this, like, same ages, different league, crazy. One of these guys at the top of their game, possibly. Man. And this is a power play, right? Like, this is some Rich Paul agent, like, bird's eye view stuff that LeBron is pulling off right here, announcing to the league that, hey, you get him, you get me.
Straight up. But that's the thing. Who knows if, again, I think LeBron will still be very productive at 39. You know, Vince Carter was able to stick around till 42 and give you good minutes off the bench. LeBron is LeBron. You know, so I think that even at 40, 42, I think he can make it all the way until 43, 44 in the league. I think he can still give you, 15 points a game, 8 to 10 assists a game. at that age because of the IQ. You know what I mean? I mean, there's levels. Kareem averaged 17, 18. Yeah, he averaged a double-double at 40 years old. You know?
Yeah.
So,
and I think the evolution, right? I think what it looks like when LeBron gets older is he shifts more into a Draymond Green role, right? Maybe he's not shooting as much, but he's still handling that thing, finding everyone. If you get some real shooters around him, which LA hasn't been able to do, it could look pretty.
yeah. Well, I think LeBron also is going to start relying on his shooting so much and post up and back to the basket game, you know, as well as his playmaking. We're not going to know LeBron to score anymore. We're going to know him to be playmaking, which we already do, but he's going to turn into the point guard, you know?
Yeah, I could see it. He wants to finish with his boy, his banana boat brother, CP3 in the top 5 in assists all times, and he's got a great chance.
Oh, yeah.
But, all right, we talked about it. So let's give it a number on a scale, right? Ross, why don't you kick it off? On a scale of 1 to 100, how likely do you think it is that LeBron ends up playing with his son, Bronny James Jr.?
82%. How much did Kobe score? 81? 81%. That's how confident I am. You know what I mean? Like that commercial with Jalen Rose where he's like, yeah, let me get 81 olives. 81%. Cooked them over a hot skillet. But nah, honestly, in all seriousness, though, I think somewhere around 80%. I think the chances are pretty high. I think the odds are likely. I think Bronny doesn't go to the G League. I think he actually goes to college, goes to a good system. I think he starts developing as a player, and I think we're going to really get to see him shine in a system where he could be that probably one, if not 2 option. So I think this can happen.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for him to dominate, for him to be the guy every night, so that when he gets to the league, he's not taking a back seat. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I could really see this happening. I'd be more surprised at this point if it didn't happen than if it did. I'm up there around 90%, bro. I think it's gonna happen because it's just like the floor for Bronny is so high. You know what I mean? Like at worst case scenario, like you were saying, he's just a 2nd round pick. Like okay, he'll get in off his namesake. Someone will take him because they want his dad.
Period.
It's gonna happen.
It is gonna happen, man. It's like you mentioned. I think it's more likely that it won't. It'll be a bigger surprise if it doesn't happen as opposed to if it does. So, yeah.
All right, that's gonna do it. First one of these Who Plug exclusives. Y'all run it up, like it, share it.
You know the vibes. Put some flavor in your ear.
Peace.